Hello, guys. Good morning. Welcome to a beautiful Monday morning. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Yesterday was Sunday. I hope you did good. Yeah, so welcome to a new episode of the Young and Sane podcast. I'm so excited to have you back. Guys, it's been a journey. Like from the first episode, it's just been a ride, and I'm so grateful for this platform and this opportunity, to get to know myself better, to get to share, you know, ideas and things I'm learning with you guys so that we can all grow and become sane young adults. In the society, we need sane people. We need people that are free from trauma and just everything that this podcast is about. So, welcome to another episode of the Monday morning podcast on the Young and Sane podcast. So, we are going to be dealing again with the same topic we talked about last week. We didn't exhaust everything that we're supposed to talk about, and this is going to be part 2. Because there's a lot of things, when we think about, I wish I was raised this way. When we think about how we were raised, when we think about the patterns we picked up, when we think about everything that had to do with our upbringing, the environment we lived in, the mental capacity and mental strength, and even the mental health of our parents at the time when they brought us up. There are just a lot of things, and they tried their best. Again, I'll say our parents did their best. They did the possible best, based on what they knew and how they knew what to do, and they actually tried. So today we're just going to jump right into the part 2 of this topic. I wish I was raised this way, and we're just going to go into the dynamics of everything. Yeah, so we're just going to go into the dynamics of everything. The dynamics of the dysfunctional method or patterns of leadership our parents had. And I'm particular about African homes because I'm an African. I'm a Nigerian. I grew up in a Nigerian household, so we are used to the way things happen in Africa. We are used to the way things happen in Nigeria, and it's probably or slightly different from the way the Western world do their things. And so it's just going to be from my own perspective of how I was raised and what I actually saw in my environment, in my circle of friends, within my classmates, and just all whatnot. So it's just going to be from that standpoint. We're going to be talking about their method of upbringing and leadership that was kind of dysfunctional in a way. So number one, let's even start from being raised up in a Christian household. Christians are Christians. Who are Christians? Christians are people that say they believe in Jesus, they believe in Christ, and they are following his ways as he's their Lord and Savior. So these are Christians, right? Basically. Now, we growing up in a Christian household, what is usually obtainable is that you have to follow the God of your father and mother. Like, you don't have any other choice to make, right? And so, right from childhood, you see how they go to church, and of course, you have to follow them to church. You have to pray, you have to fast, you have to read the Bible. If it's a family that engages in devotions, you have to be a part of the devotions every morning. And it does not matter whether you understand what is happening or not. You just have to follow. You just have to believe what they believe. Now, the problem is not even about following them to church or believing what they believe. It's okay. That's fine. But then, do they actually portray the kind of Christianity that is expected? Do they actually portray the kind of life that when we read the scriptures we see Jesus live? And there's all this fools about not trying to be humans. Like when you want to ask God questions as a young child, probably very curious about certain things, and you're like, why did this happen? Say, shut up, don't question God. You're not supposed to ask God questions. Okay, so I shouldn't be a human being to try to understand in my curiosity what exactly this is. Okay. So now we are supposed to be Christians and we're supposed to be spiritual in a sense. Now, the confusion is when our parents who are supposed to be spiritual in a sense, you now begin to see bits and pieces of their humanity scattered all about while they are bringing you up. And it just, for me, it got me into several kinds of confusion. Now, my parents are great. They are good people. I would say in their level, they are perfect as they could be. But then the imperfections of human being and the imperfections of their humanity, and then their expectations of us, it was not balanced. When you put it on the scale, it's not balanced. Like, it's tilting. Sometimes, I don't know, the expectations are more even heavier than their imperfections. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Now, you grow up and you actually see your parents living before you, living their lives as authentic as they can be. They can't hide everything from you, right? Even though you're a child, there are certain things you observe, certain things you will see, and of course you would understand. It may bring some kind of confusion, but then you would still know that this is what it is. You get one way or the other. Now, those are imperfections of being a human being. And now when they start telling you their expectations, or whether they communicate it verbally or non-verbally, you get a slight hold of their expectations of you as a person that they are bringing up as a Christian. You see that it's not even balanced with what you see from them as per imperfections, you get. And so this is exactly what I mean. So your parents are Christians and they go to church and say, don't lie, you're not supposed to steal, all those commandments, you're not supposed to lie, you will go to hellfire, you will do this and you will do that. And then something happens in the house, and for you, unconsciously, you know that this is an opportunity for your parents to actually live out this Christianity they talk about before you. And you find that in most African homes, the way our African parents exaggerate, I don't know how to qualify their exaggeration. So that's where I'm getting to. The kind of exaggeration you may find them make concerning maybe a little mistake that you did, without maybe even the intention of what they impute on it, without even the assumption of what they like, their assumptions that they impute on what you have done. The kind of exaggeration of maybe the situation, even, it amazes me. Like, it really, really amazes me. I don't know if you're getting the picture I'm trying to paint. So now you're particular about me ensuring that I serve the God you serve, follow the God you follow, ensure that I obey the rules and the commandments that have been laid down by this God that you are showing me to serve. And that's fine. And then the very commandments that you say we should obey, you're not even doing it exactly as in my head you have imputed that it should be. Like the expectation you have laid out for me that it should be up to this standard, you're not even measuring up to that standard. In this particular situation, I make a little mistake and you're exaggerating it. I'm trying to look for a perfect example of one exaggeration our African parents may make one time or the other when we commit an atrocity, or do a certain mistake. Okay, let's say for instance you're talking with your parents, and then you say, maybe you make a statement or you make a comment, and um okay, probably you're having an argument with your parents, and then you say, but mommy, it's not true. Listen, the exaggeration is usually, you call me a liar. Wait, you are saying that I'm a liar? But mommy, I just said what you're saying is not like it didn't exactly happen the way you're saying it happened. It's not, it didn't happen like it happened like, so you're calling me a liar, so I'm foolish now, so I don't know what I'm saying. So you see where the exaggeration comes from, like, and you're like, what the hell? did I really say that? Are you seriously exaggerating to that point? So this is usually the situation with African parents, African Christian parents, that they are not free from that. I don't know if it's a spirit or just a nature of exaggerating beyond what the situation was, or beyond whatever you said. Is just so much. And for me, sometimes I feel like that is a clog to even the the standard of Christianity you are expecting from your children. So you say your children should follow God, and sometimes the way they emphasize that children should follow God is not by even showing. Do you get? They're not really showing you the lifestyle. Of course, there are some parents that do show the life and the lifestyle of how a Christian should behave, how a Christian should react, all those certain things. But most times they don't even show, they just say it by word of mouth, say it in the devotion. Criticizing, devotion is a place where it's for crucifixion of anybody that has done wrong throughout the week or the previous day. And so they tell you by word of mouth more than showing you. So it's like bullying by word of mouth that your children must follow, and then labeling, threatening them with curses. If you don't do this, I will curse you, I will do this, all those kind of things. And then for children that you can flog or beat, you say, I will deal with you, I will slap you, all those kind of threats. And so it's more about word of mouth. For me, I call it sometimes bullying, rather than provoking them by your actions or your lifestyle, your character, provoking them to actually be interested in serving God, the God you say they must serve. And for me, I feel like showing people how to serve God, showing people exactly, living the kind of lifestyle exactly as you have said the standard is a more natural way, easy peasy, by the fruits of your lifestyle. When you talk about a God that's good and all that kind of thing, let it not be that you are struggling in poverty and penury, because your children are going to question you. Let it not be that you are talking about a God that provides, and then you go about borrowing money for even the very basic things in your house. Like, guys, relax. Show them the God. Don't tell them about the God and it's a different reality you're facing in your life. And of course, there are certain times that you may be in certain situations, but let it be that your children are actually seeing the steps and the growth and the deliverance. Let it be something that they are seeing koro, we'll say it's koro, like they're seeing it with their eyes. You are showing them that this is a God that provides, more than you're telling them and actually living the opposite, you get. And so this is one of the things that happens in African homes, that sometimes it's just like okay. So I feel like living a life of showing more than the telling, especially as Christians, we really sow great seeds in the lives of your children. And there are a lot of us that are grown now. When we begin to tell people about certain things that have happened in our household, we say, Kai, I saw my father serve God, and it was what made me love to serve God. I saw my father, I saw the way my mommy made sacrifices in the house of God, and that pushed me, it endeared me to say, Kai, who is this God that my father loves like this? You get. Children, as they grow, they'll have those testimonies, because those are the seeds you that were sown in them, not by the telling. Most times they won't forget what you told them, but what they saw will forever be etched on the memories of the children. So that's one part where sometimes we experience the dysfunctional patterns of leadership of our parents while they are bringing us up Christians, right? Quote unquote. You are telling, you are bullying, you are shouting, you are threatening, but you are not really showing as exactly as you're telling. Then another point, or that we're going to talk about is this most of our parents don't really know us exactly as we are getting to know ourselves. So like you see this kind of distance that exists between African parents and their children, and the only relationship they have is cook food for me, go and buy this thing for me, go and do this for me, you're supposed to do this, like maybe instructions, commandments, all those kind of things. There's no solid relationship between parents and their children. Like, you should be your child's first friend, and it's very hard for African parents to actually fit in this box. But of course, we know this now. We're supposed to know this. There are just a few African parents, maybe recently or in time past, that we are their children's friends. That, like, you're not your child's friend to the extent that your child can be going through a tough time, but you can never be the first person on your child's mind to run to tell, hey, mommy, daddy, this is what I'm experiencing, please, I need your help. Like, that's the extent to how distant your relationship is with them. And it's because of the patterns that your children have seen you exhibit over time. Probably when they were younger, they used to run to you to tell you stuff, and the first reaction you give them is to condemn, is to criticize them, is to instead of you to like welcome them and say, okay, let's analyze this thing. You may criticize, you may correct, you may rebuke, but let your children see that it's done in love, not in contempt, not in hostility, because these are the things that will drive your children away from you, further away from you. So instead of your children to always run to you, towards you, whensoever they are in danger, whensoever they are going through a tough time, they prefer to go to other people that are not their parents. This is, for me, I feel like this is very rampant in African homes. Yeah, maybe just a few African homes would not have experienced this thing, that a guy can sit down with his mother or father and discuss any topic with them. You can tell your parents anything, and of course you know that they will correct you. You are sure that they will correct you. You are sure that they may not approve, but you are not afraid that they will condemn you. Now, you are not afraid that they will write you off. You're not afraid that you will live under the shadow of that memory of relating that to them throughout your life. So you're not afraid of having that conversation with them. You're not afraid of the consequences or the repercussions that will come out of it. You know that they are going to correct you, but you're very sure that my parents will correct me in love. They may not approve of it, but it's because they love me. It's very hard. And so parents are not their children's friends, and friendship is very important in the relationship you cultivate with your children. Friendship is very important. Let your children know and let them be sure that you love them no matter what they do, no matter the mistakes they make. Let them be sure that whensoever they are in danger, they can run to you, towards you, and you always provide a covering for them. You always help them, show them the way out of whatever situation they are going through. You always be readily available to help them out of whatever situation. Let your children be sure. And then, even to the extent that some parents don't even know the potentials of their children. I mean, you have an idea that this my child, she's slow, or this my child, she's gentle, but you don't exactly know the channels of expression that this child leans towards in expressing her potentials, in expressing her talent. You don't know whether she just sings or she really loves to sing. You don't know if she just writes or she really loves to write. Like, you're not going by yourself to discover these things. It's just maybe if you see the pattern in that your child over time, you'll be like, oh, this one, she likes to write too. She likes to write. Not that you're directly invested or interested in looking up the child and actually knowing, pinpointing exactly those things. You get? So parents don't know their children, and I would say it's because there's no friendship in the parent-child relationship. There's no friendship in that. It's not evil to be your child's friend, and our parents make this mistake, and then when we grow up, they now expect us to begin to run to them, to tell them what's going on in our lives. But hey, mom, dad, we've not been this close all these years, so you don't expect me all of a sudden to start running towards you to tell you my business. I didn't grow like that, that kind of thing. We didn't grow like that. No, please, we didn't have that kind of relationship. So now that I'm grown, you expect me to begin to tell you, so I'm dating this one. You expect me to begin to tell you, hey, this person is my friend, the other person is my friend, but no, we never had that kind of relationship whilst I was growing up. When I was growing up, you always wanted me not to have any friend, or you always stopped me from bringing my friends home. So how do you now want me to begin to show you my friends or bring my friends home, or tell you that this one is my... No, now. Is it possible? It can't just start from nowhere. It has to be a pattern that has been consistent over the years. And so I'm sure that if I do this, I know what the outcome is going to be. But then whilst you were a child, your parents didn't want you to make friends, or stopped you from bringing your friends home, or just those kind of complaints. And sometimes if you even brought your friends home, they will talk about it till eternity. That's another thing that African parents have, repeating the same thing that's happened in the past over and over again. Every new mistake you make, they'll bring up the past. If you've made like 5 mistakes, if you make the 6th mistake, be sure that you remember the countdown of the other mistakes that have been made. So imagine when your parents have had this pattern when they were bringing you up. How do they not expect that you're going to be showing up to tell them, this is what is happening in my life, this is exactly what's happening? It's not going to work out. It's not going to be like that. No. It's not going to be like that. So this is another dynamic of the dysfunctional um leadership pattern or relationships we had with our parents was so mad, so maddening. This is one of it, African parents. So I'm talking from a general base, and so it's left for us as young adults to begin to find out, okay, so why don't I run to my parents first to share what's happening in my life anytime something's happening in my life? Is it because they acted like this towards me throughout my upbringing? So you have to check that out, and parents, it's not too late to begin to repair the bridges that were broken between you and your kids. As we young adults begin to grow, our parents, they're now recognizing that very soon I'll not have time to spend with my child again. She's growing or he's growing into a young adult and will soon become independent. And it's when we are grown up that they will now start trying to recover the times they've lost whilst we were younger. Something that they would have worked out when we were younger, the relationship would have been solidified, like up to this point when we are young adults about to leave the house. So I feel like parents should just take time to realize that life is in stages, and if you miss out in a particular stage, it will be hard to recover it. But it's not yet late to begin to build the bridges that have been burnt over time. Yes, especially if your child is still with you, staying with you at home. So it's not too late to begin to build those bridges. It's gonna be difficult, yeah, but at least now you can talk to the child. Our parents don't even like visiting the past. They don't like talking about the past. So I don't know how it's going to be for African parents, but it's not too late. You can try, and it's going to work out well. I promise you, it's going to be for your good. Yeah. So another thing that we're going to talk about today, it's about parents giving their children responsibilities from the early years of their lives. So I've listened to several people talk about, let your children make their mistakes. Let them make mistakes early enough in their life, and not the kind of mistakes that will be detrimental to their living, to their lives, or to what is important. Not those kind of mistakes that will damage them for life, but you have to let up a bit. Now, African parents like to be in control. Sometimes I feel like it's overwhelming, like you want to be a control freak, but you don't know that you are a control freak, and it's sickening. You are a control freak, but you don't know. You want to control where the child goes. You want to control how the child spends money. You want to control every single aspect of the child's life. But you don't actually know this child. You are not even the child's friends. Yeah, like is like a like a tyrant. You get like a dictatorship style of rulership, usually in our African homes. Like, you don't want the child to have a breathing space. You must go where I want you to go. You must do what I want you to do. You must say how I want you to say it, and exactly how I want you to say it, and exactly how I want you to do it. Oh my God, you want to control every aspect of your child's life. But then as I mentioned earlier, I've listened to a number of things that said you have to let your child make their mistakes early enough. You are bringing that child up. You are raising an individual, not for your family, someone that is going to contribute to the society. So if that person does not learn by experience early enough, he's going to grow up into a young adult and begin to make mistakes. And that's point blank period. You see, those of us that we were not let out of the house early enough. Like up till my secondary school, they no born you well. Say you go talk, say you want come out from house, go visit your friend. Like you're not okay. And if you ever do it, it's going to be under the pretense of lies or just something. You just have to cook up a story, look for a lie, something like that. Because you're not free to go out. Who are you going to see? What are you going to do there that is not happening in your house? You want to be corrupted? You want to be polluted by the world? No, you're not going anywhere. So, as I grew up, I found it hard to even go out. Going for programs or conferences is like, oh God, can't this thing just be online? So it kind of affected me and my preference to stay indoors and not want to go out. You get, because I'm used to it. It's more comfortable, it's more convenient always, and it's not boring again. You get. So I would say for me, it just affected my desire to want to stay outdoors or go outdoors or have meetings just outside with people. It affected my desire. But there are some people that it now made them pray to human scavengers. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but then like children that were not used to going out, children that were not used to staying around people, children that were not used to talking to outsiders or strangers, and then they became victims to probably sexual assault, because now from their childhood up to a certain age they weren't allowed to go outside. They don't know how to navigate walking on the road or navigate adapting to a certain area that they've not been to, or adapt to talking to strangers or having strangers around, or know the cues and the patterns on how to keep themselves safe when they go out, when they eventually go out. And so they've been prey to rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse, just different kind of things. I think you get my point. Like that's just one of the examples. Okay, let's talk about money. A lot of our parents did not like to give us money whilst we were growing up, because they felt that we were always going to buy sweets, buying this, buying that. But now I listened to this guy that said right from the age of, I think, 5 years of age, he started giving his child a certain amount of money, and he would tell him that this money is for 1 week. You have to use this money for 1 week. So you can buy anything you want to buy. You are free to spend the money how you want to spend it. But that's your allowance for 1 week. And from that very early age, this boy learned how to save. His father would give him a certain amount of dollars. I can't really remember. And then the boy will run to his father and say, "Daddy, please buy me a bicycle." And he'll say, "But I gave you money now. You can actually save up and get a bicycle for yourself. You can buy a bicycle for yourself." I said, "But it's not be enough." And I think early enough, the child was spending the money, buying sweets, buying biscuits, all those kind of things. But he said, "No, I give you money now. So you're now a big boy. You can't afford it by yourself. So you have to think about how you will save up and then buy your bicycle for yourself." And that was how this boy began to grow in financial prudence. And so for me, that's a perfect example of letting your children have responsibilities from a young age. And I was listening to Prophet Apostle Tommy Arayomi the other day, and he said that in the Jewish system, the Jewish households, fathers bring up their sons to take up responsibilities. And so but in the Western world, fathers take up responsibilities for their sons. Okay, see how it goes. The example he gave was in the Jewish system, the Jews, if an enemy comes to fight a household, the father will not be the one fighting the enemy. It will be the son fighting the enemy. So you see that all throughout the lifetime of the son, throughout his upbringing, his father will always give him responsibilities. If his father will always show him how to do things, his father will always let him get into experiences that will train him to take responsibilities, to fight for himself and fight for the family. And so when the enemy comes, it's not the father that is going to fight to protect the child, it's the child that is going to fight to protect the father. So that's like the role of sonship. The role of sonship is responsibility. And he was saying in relation to the kingdom, how God has, tried to bring us up to make us sons, make us sons that will stand to fight, to protect, to make us sons here. We're not getting into all this Bible study here, but you get my point. What I'm trying to say is that fathers are supposed to bring up their children to take responsibilities. You're supposed to bring up your children to be ready for the outside world. You're supposed to bring up your children to be ready for society, to be ready to be responsible adults, to be responsible in wheresoever they are going to find themselves, in whatsoever strata of government, in whatsoever sphere of influence that they are going to find themselves. You have to bring up your children to be able to take up responsibilities and discharge responsibilities effectively, in all wisdom. And so that's another thing that African parents don't. They like to be control freaks and not give the children responsibilities early enough. You don't want the child to make mistakes, but if you don't let the child make mistakes from their early years, and then your job is just to correct, guide, and show, so that they get it right, and you don't let them make their mistakes from early days, they're going to grow into adults and form this pattern of making one mistake to the other, and they may get to this point where they will identify with their mistakes, so their mistakes now defines them. But it wouldn't have been so if parents were able to let their children just let up a bit, let them take responsibilities. You get the responsibilities I'm talking about is not fetching water. The responsibilities I'm talking about is not sweeping the house. The responsibility I'm talking about is not cooking food. The responsibility I'm talking about is not those domestic chores. Domestic chores are not really responsibilities. They're just household chores, just domestic things that you do to keep up the house and all that. I'm talking about responsibilities that will make your children to be able to stand before kings and show a kind of prudence that will be admired. That's what I'm talking about. Let them get into experiences that are not harmful, that are not detrimental. I'm not talking about letting your children loose to begin to visit boys, begin to visit men that will molest them or make them sexually abused. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about let them gain experiences, like for example, experiences that will breed financial prudence in them. That's one of the examples, and there are a host of other things too, to let your children become responsible about and gain experience that will help them grow into responsible individuals and adults. Yeah. So another point is living by example. See, in training up a child, Training a child is, I feel like, is 80% of what you do and 20% of what you say. 80% of what you do and 20% of what you say. If you say something and your child does not see you doing it, it's thrown into it's carried away by the wind, it's thrown into the bush, like it's out of the window, out of their ears, out of their lives. So as I mentioned before, let parents do a lot of showing and less talking, less telling. You're going to talk, you're going to correct, you're going to rebuke, you're going to guide, you're going to give direction, you're going to give words of wisdom, advice, and all that. But let your life be the standard of what you say and exactly how it is. You get? And so now a child is born into a family, into a house, and his or her first role model is her parents, and how is by what you do. So recently I was talking to this young mother, and she was saying that her child, she does not know how her child knows how to do a lot of things that she used to do. Okay, the other day she left the gas cooker, and then this girl went to on it. How did she know how to on it? She had seen her mother do it several times, and then she learned how. And probably she's like 2 years old. She has not even started working. And now the other day, I think her mom was just saying, "Praise the Lord." She was just talking to herself. This child started saying hallelujah. How? She said, how did this one know it? And so she had followed her mom to church every time, and she hears the pastor when he says praise the Lord, the people respond hallelujah. And now, but yes, that child is watching, and she can see she can see every single thing that is happening around her, and she's just copying, learning by doing. Like, she's learning by observation, and she's doing it exactly. Just imagine that. And so your children are going to look up to you as as their role models from that very early age. And if what you say does not measure up to how you, that will be the genesis of your issues, as a parent. So let's even talk about divorce. When children see their parents divorced, and listen, parents can be divorced even though they're still living together. That's just the fact. There are a lot of African parents that are divorced, but they're living together. Your children will know. Mom and daddy, they are not in sync. They're not really together. They're not really as husband and wife as they're supposed to be. They're not the way. Of course, children will be watching Nollywood and all those kind of things, and they'll be seeing how husband and wife do lovey-dovey or all those kind of things, and they're not seeing it from their parents, and they're like, whoa, okay, how do my parents even, how did they give birth to me? Whoa. So your children are going to observe. They're going to observe how you treat your wife. They're going to observe how you talk to your husband. And they're going to compare it with how you talk to other men or how you talk to other women. And that's just the plain truth. It's so painful because children now grow up with this idea that, okay, my father, my mommy and my father, they don't do this, so maybe when I get married, I'm going to do this to my wife. So they will either do certain things in response to what you didn't do or did to your wife or husband, what you didn't do or what you did to your husband or wife. They're going to grow up with the mindset to respond to what you did or what you didn't do. Now, this is an example. If your father was always talking, if your father was always talking down at your mother, you're going to grow up with the mindset to either do it back to the woman, like whichever woman you finally end up with or get into a relationship with. You're going to learn to talk to that woman the way your dad was talking to your mother, or you're going to grow up with the mindset that I'm never going to do this. And sometimes the children that grow up with the mindset that I'm never going to do this to the woman I'm going to be with, or whatever woman I'm going to be in a relationship with, they end up in that same pattern. And it's a lot of nuances to why it happens, because you're trying to run away from a habit that your parents had, but you're not like questioning the root of why you are running away from it, and what exactly, like getting to the root of the issue. You're just trying to attack it from the surface. So a lot of people that say, I will never be my wife, I will never talk to my woman like this, they end up doing that. Some of them end up doing that, and some of them try their best to run away from those patterns. But you have to like know what exactly it is and why, and try to deal with the issue. Be your own person, rather than say you will not do it because you hated the way your mother was training your father. No, try to be your own better person by saying, this is how a human being is supposed to be, so I'm going to behave how a normal human being is supposed to behave, right? So that's one thing on the side of divorce. And then there's this issue of trusting men. A lot of times we women have issues of trusting men because of how our fathers handled us, or how our fathers trained us, or just something that happened between us and our fathers. If our father neglected us, or abandoned us, or rejected us in whatever verbal or non-verbal way, is going to affect the way we see a man in the future. It's going to affect the way we see a man in the future. It's going to affect the way we relate with men in the future. And so, I have this story that I always tell, because of how I felt like my daddy had an inconsistency with his promises, with keeping his promises. And I wouldn't say an inconsistency, but a total failure to fulfill his promises. I grew up with the mindset that men lie a lot. Like, they cannot promise you that they love you and they will be with you and truly see to the end. They usually don't fulfill their promises. So I grew up with that mindset, right? And it was because over the years my dad would say he will ginger us and he will encourage us and he will fire us up to study hard, pass our exams. That in short, he will do this, he will do this, and he will do. And sometimes when we do things that makes him happy, we say, wow, don't worry, I will take you out, don't worry, I will buy so for you, don't worry. And at the end of the day, daddy will not do anything, and we'll be like, daddy. But as you grow up in an African home, you cannot come and confront your father and say, daddy, why didn't you? Who are you to question? Then the next time you make a mistake, just know that you will hear those words. Those words will be used to banter and batter your life. So I grew up with, okay, anytime a man tells you or is happy with you, just anytime a man begins to make any promises on the basis of his emotion or for the purposes of impressing you, never you ever believe me, I'm still struggling with that trauma up till this day, but it's getting better because I'm aware of it, and I'm dealing with it, right? So it affected how I trust men, it affected how I see men, it affected how I listen to men, it affected how I relate with men. Once you begin to make promises based on how you feel or based on your intention to impress, wow, I'm just not gonna trust it, I'm gonna suspect it. But if you live up to it, it may now give me a reason or an evidence to trust. But then that is usually one of the things that we grow up with, and it just sticks. Trusting people, trusting men. So like this is an example of how parents are supposed to live by example. They're supposed to do things carefully, living as role models, so that they don't injure the the young mind of the child, or enjoy any formative pattern of the child, or mindset, or just ideology, or whatsoever. Yeah. Now, based on all these things that we've shared and we've discussed, believe me, we didn't even go like deep, like we didn't even go so deep into the nuances of everything that can be obtainable in a dysfunctional parent-child relationship, or dysfunctional leadership of parents in African homes. We didn't really go into details of every single thing, but these are just the few things I wanted to mention. And then, of course, in there I gave some tips on how parents are just supposed to come on. All of us can do better. I'm going to be a parent one day, whether a foster mom or a real mom, whichever, and is going to I'm going to take this into consideration, because I'm learning. As I grew up, I had to learn that okay, this is where my parents did good, this is where they did not do good, so I'm going to be better. I'm going to improve on it. I had to learn all that, and it's the reason why I'm sharing it, so that we as young people can go back to know, okay, this is where they did good, this is where they did not do good. So how can I even remedy the damage they did to me because they didn't do better in these places? And then how can I even become a better person so that I don't do the same damage to my children in the future? That's the reason for all these things we've gone into right now. And so as a result of all that we have discussed earlier, some men and some women are still living as boys or girls. Now, this is not even about a matured man or a matured woman-ish. Now, we're not talking about being a matured man or being a matured woman. No. There are matured men, people in grown bodies that are boys. There are people, women in grown bodies that are still girls. And again, this has nothing to do with being a matured person or not a matured person. It's trauma. What do I even mean by a man being a boy? Again, it's not about maturity, right? I'm talking about trauma. Now, let's take for instance a man in his 35 years, and something happened while he was 8 years old, right? Probably there was this episode that happened in his family that made him develop this feeling of, oh, I'm not loved, or my dad or mom has betrayed me, or either of my parents have neglected me, or they've abandoned me, or they've rejected me, or just whatever. Or maybe he has this encounter with a stranger or with a family member or so, and he's sexually abused or molested, right? Now he's 8 years old, and that was when he was a boy. It happened when he was a boy, and that memory settled in his subconscious, right? In his subconscious or his unconscious, right? And now he's 35 years old, and he feels like he still remembers what happens to him, right? But he feels like, well, I'm over it, I'm better, I'm done, I'm okay, I'm all that. But because that little boy, that memory has been buried in his subconscious or his unconscious. There are certain attitudes or mindsets or behaviors he's going to express that are because that little boy buried in his subconscious or unconscious mind is trying to gain expression because of what was done to it. I don't know if you're getting me. Now, probably because of what has happened in his past, sexual abuse, right? He's open to a lot of things. Or because he was abandoned or neglected, he begins to seek love in the wrong places. And most times this can be expressed in engaging in random casual sex, like so addicted to sex, so addicted to pornography or just whatever, just to feel better about that part of him, that little boy that was rejected, that little boy that was molested, that little boy that was abandoned. That little boy wants to feel better, and so he's going to be expressing himself. That little boy is buried in the subconscious or unconscious mind, and so he's going to be expressing himself in these ways, probably in sex. It's usually sex, and sometimes it's not even sex. It could be in other ways, like he always easily gets angry. He's a workaholic, like he tries to bury himself in work because he loves the high that it gives him, the dopamine, the satisfaction it gives him when he has achieved something, or the recognition feeds something in him, the affirmation that the job gives him feeds that little boy part of him, the acceptance, the everything feeds that unloved part of the boy, so it just could be. And so this is one of the examples of a man in his 35 years of age but then being controlled by his 8 years old self. Is not known to him. He doesn't know that this was happening to him, right? So like this is an example, and there's a lot of us, a lot of men that's still going through that cycle. So every time you want to engage in sex, because why? That part of you is going to feel better. It's going to feel loved for that moment where you're going to have the dopamine rush. That part of you is going to feel satisfied. It's going to feel okay. And then the next time that is going to desire or want it, and then once again you find yourself engaging in sexual activity. Or it could even be that probably this guy is not traumatized, but then probably something has happened in him that anytime he's stressed, he wants to feel relief, right? He wants to feel better about his stress, and so he's not going to relax. He's not going to take some time out with the boys. He's not going to do other things that can help him manage his stress. He's not going to go to the gym. He's not going to eat healthy. Rather, he will be longing for sex. Why? To release the stress. And all these things are just trauma responses. You have to check back. So why do I always want to even release stress through sex? Are there no other healthy ways? Are there no other alternatives? Why sex? Right? So these are just some things that can happen to someone that he doesn't even know about it, but then it's his 8 years old self that is controlling his 35 years old self. And it's very bad, right? Now, women too, it's not just men. Women, a lot of women, big women, 30 years old, 28 years old, 40 years old. But then the girl in you, the girl that was hurt in you, is the one that is still trying to gain expression and is still trying to find expression in your 30 years old self, and you don't know it. the girl in you that was abandoned, the girl in you that was rejected, the girl in you that felt hurt or unloved by her father, the girl in you that was sexually abused by her uncle, her father, her relative or stranger, is still trying to live and control you and rule your 30-year-old self, and you don't know it. So your thoughts are the thoughts of this girl. The pattern of life you choose for yourself are the thoughts of this girl. So you want to buy a lot of shoes, you want to buy a lot of bags, you want to buy a lot of designers. Why? So that little girl that didn't have much will be satisfied with the fact that, I have a lot of bags, I have a lot of this, I have a lot of that. So the little girl in you that felt rejected by her father wants to have a boyfriend that loves her so much and loves her alone, right? It's not a bad thing, no. It's not bad, right? But then the addiction to that kind of love, the need, the desire, the depth of desire and need for it speaks of the trauma of that little girl. She's trying to gain expression, right? And then the decisions you take, the choices you make, because that little girl that her father rejected, because that little girl that didn't trust her daddy, because that little girl that didn't trust her daddy because of everything that happened, that little girl that felt rejected by her mommy begins to act a certain kind of way amongst female friends. That little girl that didn't feel appreciated or validated or recognized or needed, she wasn't given attention. She begins to seek attention. She begins to seek validation. She begins to seek recognition. From what? From engaging in gossip, or from getting a lot of designer bags and shoes and clothes, or from just doing a lot of unhealthy things. And a lot of times we don't know that those things are speaking to the trauma of the little girl. Yeah. So these are just some of the things that happen, when our parents raise us in a certain kind of way, and sometimes it's not even their fault. Life would just be lifing and things just happens, and everybody carries the feeling with which they carry with them. Everybody carries the interpretation or the experience with which, from their lens, they've seen from their lens, and they hold on to them and carry with them, and then begin to live in those experiences in their latter years. So it's just a lot of things, right? And so it's the reason why we still have to go back. Parents, how did you train your children? Have these conversations. Yeah, have these discussions. They are grown, right? You can still build the bridges, but have these conversations. Don't be scared of what they may say or what the truth that may be revealed, like concerning how they felt about certain things or certain ways. Don't be scared. Let's go back in time and actually find out. Young people, let's go back. Let's find out. So how did my parents raise me, and how is it affecting my lifestyle today? Am I actually living a certain kind of life because I'm running away from certain things, or is that just it? Right? So let's go back, and check up on all these things. It's very important, right? Yeah, so guys, I think this is where we'll end today's podcast. It's been how many minutes? So I don't know. Oh my god, this has been a long one, but I trust that it's actually going to help us get into the roots of our lifestyle and our patterns and just everything about us in this season. It's going to help us become better parents to our children, our future children, and even parents now. It can help you become better parents in the now, right? Yeah, so I'm so grateful that you listened up to this point. For those of you that have listened up to this point, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you share, make sure you follow this podcast. If you're listening on Google Podcast, please subscribe. Yeah, subscribe to the podcast so that you can get notified anytime I upload a new this thing on Mondays. Yeah, and so let's stick together, right? We are going on a journey. We're going on a journey, and it's exciting for me because I'm becoming healed and free of certain things. Like, I just want to be a better person, right? And I want to have a community of people that want to become better people too. I'm very sure of that. And so that our society can be better, can be healthier. We need a lot of sanity in the world, and let's stick together to make it happen. Share with your family, your friends, your colleagues, every person that you can share this with. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to do these things. And please, I would love to read your comments. What you think about each and every one of the podcast episodes that have been uploaded, and this one most especially, right? I would love to get feedback from you. Thank you so much for sticking with me to this very moment. I'm so grateful. Have a nice day. Bye bye.